Keynote speaker is Anna Shebsat. Anna has a career path in the UK, UAE, and Russia in the short span of the last 15 years, mostly in executive education and working with executive MBA programs. Anna was featured in the Power Issue edition of Empress Women magazine in 2020, Ivy League educated at Columbia. Passionate advocate for global education. Anna is holding a post of a president and board member of Columbia Alumni Association, UAE. She is also an active global growth partner at the Global Thinkers Forum, instructed by Her Royal Highness Queen Rania of Jordan. Anna's expertise lies in international growth strategy, market development, executive education, recruitment, and business development acquired across emerging and developed markets. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Anna Shebsdat. The lead is yours, Anna. You can take over.
Thank you so much for your kind introduction. I hope you can hear me and see my slides. So,
loud and
good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. Masal khair, and I'm honored and pleased to be part of the UAE Internal Auditors Association virtual conference today. My special thanks go to the chairman of the board, Mr. Abdul Qadir Obeid Ali, and the entire team for their efforts in organizing these 2 wonderful days where we're learning. And also thank you for inviting me as a keynote speaker on a topic that I'm very passionate about and spend most of my career in. And also thank you for the possibility for me to share thoughts with the esteemed audience. As Her Excellency Sarah bint Youssef Al Amiri, the Minister of the State for Advanced Technology, mentioned in her inauguration speech yesterday morning, it is about embracing the unknown. It is about resilience, our adaptability, and continuous embracement of technology by us in our individual capacity, and therefore this nurtures our businesses, our organizations, and its success consequently. And of course, education definitely had to embrace technology. So in today's session on executive education, we will look at this one particular branch of the learning. And I think that it is definitely the most exciting part of business education for executives like yourself. As you all are in the mid to senior of your career level progression, my hope for this session that at the end of it, you will get inspired, or if you are pursuing any program at the moment, perhaps you get even more inspired to pursue your learning journey as an executive. So my presentation is intentionally not heavy on numbers and statistics, and it's not a technical topic, as you can imagine. So I would like to deliver today more of insights as a person who actually has done her executive education program. I've done mine at Columbia Business School in New York in 2016. And also as someone who is actually working on a daily basis with senior executives and talking to them and consulting them on their executive learning path. So let me show you first of all the session's overview. First of all, we will look at the overall industry of the sector of executive education, what are the trends and what massive change it went through last year. Then we will look at your particular development as a lifetime commitment. As I mentioned, you're either in your mid or your senior level of career, and learning is as important as always. And I'd like to quote the infamous painter Michelangelo, who aged 87 said, "I am still learning." And finally, we will finish with how executive education helps you to keep producing excellence, both professionally and personally. Because as I'm managing such, or have been also managing such offerings of Ivy League top business schools for the past 10 years in the market, 10 of these years were here in the UAE, responsible for the Middle East region, it is extremely important that you understand that it's not just the professional upskilling and reskilling, but such education for executives also changes you personally in a very positive way. So very quickly about the three main objectives of this session, and then we will start. So first of all, let us look at the transformation of education. It definitely has been disrupted, and especially the inequality of education. Secondly, the importance of lifetime learning, which is now enabled more than ever by the technology. And finally, I will try to give you the first-hand recommendations. First-hand because I have seen it from inside as a student and somebody who was going through this program myself, and somebody who is actually witnessing the difference that such education makes to those who I see graduating, those people whom I work with on a daily basis. So let me first quote the famous author Brian Herbert. He said that the capacity to learn is a gift. The ability to learn is a skill, and the willingness to learn is a choice. And definitely, if you are here today, you are able and you have the capacity to learn. So that's already given to you. And it's a great gift given to you by nature, and also which you develop over the years of your education and career so far. But however, the choice is really up to you whether you continue, willingly continue to invest in yourself. So let us go and first of all, take a look at the overall industry. If we talk about the general global higher education market, we have seen exponential growth. And if we look at today's evaluation of it of $65 billion, it is expected to grow exponentially by 2027, creating a size of the market worth of 117 billion. It's a statistic for you just to understand the scope of and the importance of such market. Now, overall education has been definitely challenged by the COVID-19 in every aspect, be it format, be it form or channels. And we will go in more details about that. Now, it was compelled to change, to be honest, and universities, schools, and business schools, all of them had to go through a tremendous change. The sector had to change in order to deliver the service, and the service was expected to be at the high standard. Now, the change happened literally overnight, and I had firsthand witnessed it. And the special challenge was that the current students who were enrolled in such programs expected also the same level of engagement and the same level of quality, which was the most difficult part to do from educator side and the school's management side. And universities and business schools, to a larger extent, they were more old-style fashioned, I would say, and they focused on holding the quality. And they were rather afraid that the digital would actually dilute the quality. So before COVID, there were, of course, schools offering the online MBA degrees and online part of it, but not to extent that it's happening today. Now, business schools had to find a new way to market. Therefore, there's a huge demand for new solutions going forward. And executive education in itself is worth $2 billion in size and was actually growing 20% over the course of the last 5 years. Now, the ambiguous world that we live in today, it's a floating reality. We have lockdowns, we have flight corridors, and we really, struggle to predict what's going to happen next and which restrictions are coming into place. So hybrid is basically what is driving today's education, I would say. And this ambiguous reality is driving the rapid change. And I think here, very important, it's the driver in the skills and the capabilities that your organizations, your business, and your customers need. Now, education, as you probably know, is also the national priority for most of the countries. And in particular, if you look at the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar, moving towards knowledge-based technology economy. So in the UAE, for example, there were a lot of programs, educational development programs launched, and 10.4 billion dirhams were allocated by the UAE government towards the education. If we talk about Saudi Arabia, education actually got the largest 2021 budget share with 186 billion riyals. So without a doubt, to transform the economy and to improve competitiveness, this is essential, and education is a vital strategic area where all the countries are looking at. We also have seen for quite a long time a remote employment, but we have never seen it to the extent that COVID pushed it to happen. So at the moment, we see a broad remote employment. Managers needing to have skills how to manage remote teams, as it's exponentially bigger now than it was ever before. There is also higher competition, as you can see, in the market and in terms of employment, and very fast changing business demands to which all of us have to adjust and be very agile. So another trend that is happening is the personalized learning. It's really on the rise. An example of this can be the accelerated artificial intelligence-led instructions. So just a few words about AI-led instructions. Educational institutions and providers, from elementary school to the high school and professional learning for executives, they're being transformed by the artificial intelligence to advance the learning offerings in the market. Now, as I said, all of us have the ability to learn. However, we all learn differently and we all learn at different rates. And we all know, like, somebody has more of an understanding in analytics, so we talk about the left brain side, or the other side of the brain that is responsible for creativity. So also, the different cultural backgrounds affect the way we learn, the way we interpret information. And last but not the least, and not to forget the language, the way we interpret certain things depending on the language. So all of this means we need an individualized tools to learn. And this is where the artificial intelligence enables. And it enables so-called hyper-personalization. So it's tailored to each individual. And for many years, you might have heard about custom programs and providers of executive education who talk about customization, companies who want customized approach for their learning and development departments to deliver to their organization. So here where artificial intelligence can really play a big role in hyper-personalization of learning. And such providers exist already for a long time, and they play out globally. And I think this is now the time for them to really, COVID pushed them to make it happen more than ever. By 2024, it is expected that almost 50% of learning management tools will be actually enabled by artificial intelligence. And it will reach $6 billion in market size by 2024. Now, the challenge for all traditional education business schools. As I mentioned, overnight, we have to shift to digital classroom, a virtual classroom. And, when the faculty was in lockdown because of the flying professors to deliver the programs, some really struggled not to even how to handle the technicalities because you will have an IT department to help you, but more about the feeling of the student. How do you feel the audience? How do you feel your group of students via the screen? So the infrastructure definitely had to be in place, and also securing the online access, right? The cybersecurity. Now, there was a lot of work for sure for the IT departments of all the educational institutions. And in the meantime, the current students who were enrolled in the programs at the time of lockdowns, or especially last year, they still expected a high quality delivery via online. So overnight change without disappointing the current students enrolled was a major challenge. And of course, it leads me to say that the physical contact when you meet your peers was replaced by the visual content. And this is something that is the new reality that is not perfect, but we just have to adjust to it. So physical replaced by the visual contact. And it is a challenge for both sides. Let me be fair in that. It's a challenge for the educational providers, for professors, as well as for students. So by working together, we can make it happen. Now, the new breed of new digital education providers definitely challenged the academia. It is so-called alt MBAs. And it was already happening for many years. Some of these big brands now have been incepted in 2013, 2016. So they have been there in the market for some time. But the alt MBAs didn't actually push and force the sector to change and review the way we learn. Actually, it was the COVID-19 and the pandemic that gave it a real push. And hybrid is the new form, and it seems to be staying there for a foreseeable future. Now, for example, there's a company called Quantic, and they received 60,000 applications in 2020, which is 3 times more than they received in a year before. So, of course, they can offer rather interesting price points compared to other MBA and executive MBA offerings, and they avoid the overhead costs. So they have been there, but the COVID-19 really gave them a push and actually forced the entire industry for all educational providers to move forward to deliver the best quality. The technology is not there to replace the education, and I think we should look at it as an additional tool. We can explore with it, we can access it more easily, and we can experience learning in a different way. So we shouldn't be just blindsided, by the new technology and rave about it, but we need just to use it in a way where we match it to the learning outcomes. Otherwise, it really doesn't make sense if you use AI, if it doesn't fit the learning outcome. And this is what educators should really look at. Now, we have a deeper learning as well. As you might know, at certain schools, they have done different researches, and the practice shows that when you overlap multiple fields for children, it actually inspires and creates and nurtures creativity. And we're all born with the creativity. It's just a matter of nurturing it. So it shows that when we merge and overlap different subjects, the creativity increases, thus the problem-solving skills increase, and a lot of other things happen which positively affect the way you work. So same goes for the education for senior executives. It is about convergence of multiple fields, and it definitely changes the channel, the conditions, and the impact of learning. And here is where we talk about robotic education. So convergence is really big, and lots of schools are looking at it. Now, the transformation of education, and in particular, how the inequality in education was disrupted. First of all, accessibility in terms of top educational institutions. We're talking about Ivy League as Columbia, Harvard, MIT, and Wharton. Perhaps before it was just a dream to get in there. And of course, they still have very rigid criteria to enroll to the programs. However, there is a shift in mindset and in offerings. So before, these brands were in scarcity, in prestige, and as I worked previously with those top brands offering their executive educations, open enrollment programs, as well as shorter courses in the Middle East, the range was offered and is offered today is actually very, very broad at different price points, different length, and it is now more accessible than ever. So these schools as well are, of course, looking at different regions such as China, Middle East, where they can reach out their audience of senior executives. Quality, that was also raised by technology. So if you imagine a pyramid where at the top you have all the Ivy League top institutions or top schools, they really had to work on their offerings after the pandemic. Now, if they are working hard on delivering even better product and given access to a wider audience to join them, how about the rest of the pyramid? So basically, a range offered was big, but you have to evolve and offer solutions to compete with these top brands. So the entire sector had to compete, raise their game and step up. And this is, of course, good and positive for the entire education sector. Another point, the ease of access. Now we're talking about the flexible classrooms, the accessibility, not just in terms of top brands available, but also in terms of the geography. You no longer need to be based in the US to take a program at Harvard. You can be based anywhere in the world. And this is such a great variety of what you can do now with this accessibility that there is definitely no excuse not to do it. And finally, we're talking about information democratization. Let's look at every aspect, its cost, its speed, its access, on-demand delivery. So just a few words on each of it. Cost. The physical gathering, the cost of physical gathering for such programs was exponential. If you take a look at the P&L, the organizational part is actually more expensive than the education itself, right? So we talk about the hotel, the venue, the flights, the catering, the rooms, the breakout rooms, the lecture theater. So now you don't need it. You can really focus more on educational quality. Speed. Logistical bottleneck was always there. you deliver one piece at a time. You need to apply for visas. You need to fit the executive education into your business agenda. So now it's way more in terms of speed. And access, as we said, it's accessible in terms of different brands, and it's just more than a senior level employees. If before an executive program would be available only to the top, let's say if you do an in-house program of such kind, then it's only top few, right? Now, with this access, even more people in the organization can avail such programs. And finally, the on-demand delivery. I'm talking here about the recording, for example, when the lectures and sessions can be recorded. Now, you can be with your laptop. If you're not next to your laptop, you can use your phone or iPad. So the access is actually there when you need it. If you are not there physically next to your laptop, maybe on a go, you can access via phone. And also you can access the learning in terms of recordings at any time or exactly when you need it, when you need this knowledge to be used. Now, to sum up, given the overwhelming cost and the efficiency advantage, this seems to be where the industry is going, and it's hybrid. And if we look at the overall impact of COVID-19 on the industry, I would underline that it's about more creative and more blended way of delivering such education for senior executives. This was the push that was really needed, and it definitely affected the industry. Let us look at the continuous learning journey, which might sound a cliche. However, it is so important, and in our busy life, we usually forget about education. So, the importance of lifetime learning. First of all, the upskilling. I'm sure you have 15, 20, or 25 years of work experience, and you have acquired amazing skills up to today. However, those skills need to be improved. And we improve as we go, as we work on a daily basis and face challenges. However, executive education programs, they can actually accelerate this improvement of your skills. Another point is the reskilling. So apart from improving what we already have, we also need to reskill ourselves, meaning we need to learn new skills. And this is one of the main reasons why all of these programs are in such a big demand. And I think the biggest lesson of change management was the COVID-19. We have heard before about change management, but not to the extent that it is today. And more so, where education is actually playing a role is the change management. Now, also an important point is that we can now access the right content at the right time via the right channel. So if before we might not have the right content for where we are, maybe we're lacking understanding how to choose the program. Maybe it wasn't the right time in your career to pursue it. Maybe it wasn't the right channel. It was more rigid and not as flexible. Today, the landscape totally changed. So it's about right content and the right time and via the right channel accessible for you. And the hybrid classroom, as I mentioned, we see a significant increase in the blended learning. But the blended learning should not cause you a feeling that it is a cheaper version of a face-to-face program of any kind. And for the education sector, it's the key to improve and actually facilitate the online part of it. So online facilitation to support your online learning is essential. And most of the schools who really care about the quality of their education, they do put a lot of effort to make sure when you go through a hybrid learning, it is a good experience for you. So this is something very important that is happening in the industry. Now, the old way was that here is something to remember. You come, you learn, you take exam, you get a grade. And this is what some people still might perceive what is happening in education. However, the new way is, here is a problem to solve. So we are really looking at the action learning. And when you choose any program, make sure there's a lot of action learning involved. This is one of the criteria that I would highly recommend you to look at. Now, let us talk a little bit more about different types of programs, because there is plenty of them. And usually I would see candidates really frustrated and asking, what should I pursue, longer, shorter? There's so much variety, as we understood, in the market. So there are longer programs, which you do usually once in a lifetime. Let's say you do executive MBA or PhD or executive PhD or full-time MBA. Those require a longer time commitment. They can be modular, it can be 2 years, 1 year, 3 months, extensive, very intense programs. So those are rather generic degrees, and they take on a holistic approach. So, for example, an executive MBA, it's not really specifically on one particular subject. No, it actually touches on all the aspects of the business: HR, finance, marketing, corporate governance, finance, right? So it's a generic degree. And if you would go for such a program, it is a major career change. That is the motivation to do it. So if you're looking for a major change in your career, or if you're looking at the horizontal movement, for example, you move within the company or within the industry to another function, within the same industry or in another industry, this is called horizontal movement. Or perhaps you're also wanting to go up one level in your career progression. Or another reason can be that you're looking at another geographical location where you need a different knowledge. So these are all major things that you want to change. In this case, a more generic degree with a longer duration would fit you really very well. Now, the shorter courses and the executive education programs, they are so-called continuous learning. So executive education programs, they're tailored to a very specific gap. If you don't want any generic big change in your career, but you feel that there's a gap that you want to fill, that's where you go to a shorter duration programs. And it is about engaging a senior executive and getting them to understand the new concepts, the new methods, the new ways of leading, and basically adapting and changing behavior in the current world. So it can be in-house or it can be external. And as good as in-house is, where you mingle with your own peers and you get to know perhaps different departments and different executives in your firm, it is also very important, if you have the chance to take any program outside of your organization, it is really essential for you to get this out-of-the-box understanding. When in these programs, you're usually mixed with all kinds of nationalities, people coming from all kinds of backgrounds and industries. What you have perhaps done for the past 10, 15, 20 years, you will actually come, you will meet people from all kinds of industries, and you'll think, oh, actually, I've done it the same way all my life, but there's another way. You know, my peer, my classmate is actually doing it in a different way. So it really totally opens up your understanding. And outside of your company, there is a totally new world that exists that you should also, discover, which actually makes you even more productive in your own company because you bring fresh ideas and you think out of the box. Now, important to note that a lot of people are mixing executive MBA and executive education. But let me tell you that they're not in competition at all. They are fulfilling two different educational requirements, and they're actually complementary. So, as I said, you have full access to plenty of options in executive education, and you definitely should take a look at various schools. Now, another important point is that there are usually 3 key reasons and criteria that you should look at if you would like to pursue any of such program. In no particular order, but this is learning, brand, and networking. And for you in particular, it might be a specific order in terms of your priorities. If we talk about the learning, what is it exactly that you want to learn? Make sure you really take a proper look at the curriculum of program when you're choosing, and ask for it, actively ask for the curriculum. Brand, why this brand? Why not the other brand? What is this business school stronger in and what is the other? And believe me, they're all very strong, but in different fields. So you choose the one that really suits more you. And networking part, of course, as a senior executive, networking is extremely important. So when you look at the school and at the program, please take a look at the networking that they're offering once you graduate. Who are the alumni? What are they doing? What, once you graduate, can you reach out to them? Is it a specific field? So the 3 things, because usually we come and we have so many motivations and reasons, but let me make it simple for you. There are 3 things that you should look at: learning, brand, and networking. And in-person networking, of course, is extremely important. It's about personal connection and face-to-face. However, we just have to be realistic that at the moment, it's not perfect, but you can still network online. Now, let me briefly tell you about key points about importance of lifetime learning. So we all have longer lives, hopefully. And our careers as well then become longer. So now, with all the expectability of living longer, it might be 50 or 60 years of career. Was not imaginable before. So it's really about making sure that for the next 20, 30 years, you keep on acquiring the new knowledge. And an interesting fact is that actually today's generation who is born, they have 50% chance living to 105 years old, and a century ago it was only 1%. So you can imagine what a change as a human has to also go through to keep on being relevant in the market. So, and perhaps you have graduated 15, 20, or 30 years ago, and so much has changed since then. Now, the journey of self-transformation and inspiration, in my personal experience and what I see with graduates of such programs, it is definitely inspiring you. And it is considered as a journey. It is not that you just enrolled, listened, got your degree, done, paid. No, it's actually the transformation itself. And I see and saw a lot of resistance actually to feedback delivered in the classroom when you go through such programs, especially if you have this personality test. People do resist in the beginning and they say, no, this is not my leadership style, this is not me. But then at the end of the journey and the end of the program, they open up and they see themselves in a different light because of this, interaction with the faculty, with the peers, the self-assessment. You really see yourself in a different way, which is very exciting. Now, the confidence, of course, the confidence grows You want to remain relevant. You want to be agile. And when we say agile, we mean you want to be very quick in taking decisions. In today's world, you have to take decisions very fast. You have to keep up. As well, interpreting and critically assessing the information. It goes without saying we receive tons of information on a daily basis. So such programs actually help you to identify how to read, let's say, an article in Financial Times, how to critically assess it in a very short span of time. Discipline and better time management. For sure, going through such programs, your time management goes to the next level. And interestingly, what we see after people graduate from executive MBAs and executive programs, managing family, managing business, they finish, they graduate, and they actually say, now I feel like I have so much free time, so they go on again and continue, with further programs. So as I say, learning really never stops. Usually then they pursue their PhD or short educational programs. And finally, out of the box, the challenge. This is what I said, when you go out of your company and you meet new people, you see how things can be done differently. You're not just in your bubble, but you really proactively challenge yourself, which is always great. Now, for a moment, just ask yourself, how much time do you invest in your education at the given moment? Maybe some of you are already enrolled into programs, maybe some of you are thinking about it, and usually it's best to pre-plan. But perhaps in the next break, just think about it. How much do you really invest in your education today? It's a very good question to reflect on the weekend. And what I usually hear, there are two things. There's one question and there's one statement. When is the right time to pursue such programs? Well, to be honest, the right time is now. And usually the right time is during the crisis or challenging times, because once the crisis is eventually over, you come out with new skills, confidence, and you have really invested in yourself. So it's always good. Now, the right time, I would see often that people will come back and say, well, actually, I should have done it 5 years ago. I should have done it 10 years ago. So my answer is, please don't come to me in 5 or 10 years again to say the same thing. Just go ahead and challenge yourself. And another statement that I would usually hear is that I don't have time. Well, learning whilst working actually increases your productivity. And believe me, that extra time that you spend today, it will give you a higher return on investment in the very near future. In my personal experience, I have taken the executive education program, which was a blended format, and I had to travel between Dubai, Mumbai, and New York. And simultaneously, I had to manage a growing business and the entire office, and also had family commitments as a first-time mother. So trust me, it was not a walk in the park, but if you ask me today, I would not for a second actually regret that I have gone and pursued this program. As challenging as it was, the inspiration, and the fire in the eyes that you have once you graduate is really something that is amazing for you to go for as a person, and learn from others, for sure. Now, finally, let me tell you some recommendations that I feel might be very important for you. Use the executive education as the tool. Make most out of it. As I mentioned, you can enroll to a program, pay, graduate, get the paper. That's not what it is about. Even if you are after a brand or something on your CV as a line. Use most out of it. It's up to you. You are no longer at school, you're no longer at the bachelor's degree, where you really have to go through everything because you have to learn it. The executive education programs of any kind gives you tools to make your life better. So use the most out of it. And use it as an enabler for your future growth. What is the value proposition especially for you? Is it a brand? Is it a learning? Is it networking? So basically, it's really up to you. You need to understand what value does it give to you. The last thing you want is to enroll into a program, drop out, realize it wasn't the right choice. This is why please make sure that you really look at, as I said, curriculum, the networking, and the brand. Important also to define your personal learning ability. So there are programs that are screen only, which is where you don't have a professor, you don't have an instructor, you just have to learn, take a test, and you're done. This is usually good for some technical topics. However, as a senior executive, this is not what you want. So make sure that there is a screen interaction, live interaction, and group interaction. This is very important. And choose the action learning heavy curriculum. It is a lot about the immersive experiential learning, which a lot of top schools are, of course, implementing. It is really about this at this level of your career. And don't forget that your best investment is in your education, because no one can take it from you. Now, let me finish by saying that there's a very interesting quote by a famous author, Brian Tracy: leaders, learners. So as a leader, it's actually your responsibility to learn, because at the end of the day, your development is crucial for you. However, your development also affects your organization, your business, your clients, and your customers. And they actually do rely on you improving yourself. So keep on learning. And I would like to thank you for listening in. I really hope it was useful. And I'm welcoming any questions, please.
Anna, I've already posted 2 questions for your consideration. Please in the chat if you can take them.
1 minute. How many questions shall I take?
I think we have time for taking 2 questions only, please.
All right. So do you believe that face-to-face learning will be done away with completely or to a significant extent? From your experience, do you advocate face-to-face or online or blended? So as I mentioned, the trend is that it's going to be hybrid as long as we have this fluctuating situation with the lockdowns. I personally, of course, would advocate for hybrid. I do believe that face-to-face is extremely important. We all feel that we're missing, this part, and you can see when people meet each other at several events here in Dubai, how different it is, to actually meet face-to-face. However, we have to be realistic, stay optimistic, and blended seems to be the new format. And blended, of course, includes face-to-face to the extent that is possible in the current situation. So I hope that I answered this question.
I think there's another one that was posted is online education has enabled teaching remotely, but this has had an impact on learning due to the attention span and extremely limited personal attention. Whilst this will not disappear immediately, what will you suggest for educators and students to build on the attention span so as to increase the learning and retention ability?
Definitely, the attention span is a very good thing, and I'm sure most of you who are parents would know, and being a mom and homeschooling 6-year-old son, definitely attention span is literally 45 seconds. So I think also for adults, we do have certain attention spans. So I think it's around 40 minutes. Now, what would I suggest to educators and students to build attention span? Well, I think, first of all, the distractions. In today's world, we have too many distractions. And very simple tips, I guess, to put your phone on silent or put your phone in another room and really focus on what you see on the screen, your professors, your peers, and increase in the learning and retention ability. You know, as we read, as a child, we read faster and faster as we practice. So it's all really about practicing. Once you learn one language, second language, the third one is easier because your brain is already wired to this learning. You know, it's very familiar for your brain. You know how to learn the language actually. What's the process? So same goes for us, for executives. We grow as we learn throughout our career. Our past experience influences our future, you know, deeds. And of course, as long as you keep on learning, you increase this learning ability. It's like if you are reading, you know, poems for many, many years, you can actually recite them very easily, and your brain works much better at the later stage in your life because of this process, because your brain is a muscle and you also train it. So I think it's very important to keep on learning, because that's how you actually develop this ability to learn.
All right, thank you very much, and I'll hand it over back to Ms. Soumya.
Thank you, Anna. It was a pleasure listening to you talking about education and focusing on how executive education helps you to keep producing excellence professionally and personally. Thank you very much. Looking forward to more interaction in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ma salama. Bye.
Bye. See you.